Hello everyone, welcome to another video. Today we're taking a look at this massive set. This sexy Lego set called the Ninja Combo Mech, Ultra Combo Mech. It comes with the 4 original Ninja, 2 Snake Warriors, and a Woobot. I'm going to try and break this set down. First off, we're going to take a look at the main set just because it's so good, and then if I remember I will do the figures at the end. So in case you couldn't tell the size of the set from like the scale of a figure, here it is next to my hand. This is possibly the biggest mech that I've ever owned. But it's also the most interesting. As you can clearly see, this set is divided up into a couple of smaller sections, each with an individual colour scheme. You know, you've got the black hands here and here, the main red torso, white legs, and then obviously the slight blue, which is more noticeable on the back. You can see that he is also dummy thick. However, this set is such an incredible design from Lego. It brings out the Power Rangers loving child that is in me. It is just incredible. So, in case you haven't seen a review of this set, it is basically 4 individual vehicles and a mech all combined into one. And you might be able to see certain parts of it. You know, you've got the tread here and here on the other side. You got the drill hands here and here. You can kind of make out wings on the top. And then, as I showed you from the back, you can see the extra arms here. And then, you know, you can see the legs here. Now, I'm going to try and keep this review kind of vague. I'm going to still go into detail about it, but there is so much to cover that I don't want to end up having to split it up into 2 videos, you know, like a vehicle section and then the main mech, because I could speak on for ages about how good this first build is. So, when it comes to taking this mech and constructing it, you build all the individual vehicles separately, and then at the end it shows you how to combine them. I'm going to do a combined review first, and speak about my issues with it and my absolute loves for this set. So first off, you can see where the Ninja are meant to go. So you've got a leg space here with a cockpit. You've got an empty one here, which is for the Woobot. You've got a cockpit here for Cole, and that kind of popped off. And that is the first issue, is this part of the mech does like to fall off, this little cockpit, because it's not really held on by anything. So that is probably the first issue that I'll bring up. Plus, it doesn't really fold in all the way. And that's the same with this one here. However, on the back, I think is the worst cockpit for Jay, up here. I don't know how well you guys can see that. However, when Jay is in this mech, he just kind of sits there, just empty, doing nothing. I'm going to quickly set up the figures in the mech so you guys can have a look at what I mean. Got the figures all in this mech. You can kind of see what I mean when you see Cole is just like there. You know, he's not really that well protected. You know, like if they were going to be drilling into a wall or something, he would be pretty messed up. You know, he's pretty open. He can't lean any further back, unfortunately, which I think is one of the main issues, is that because of the way that they've built it, there's not enough space for him to fit in there. However, I feel like a lot of the issues with this set can be excused for the fact that it all combines, because if it was a much thicker cockpit, then the arms would be too bulky, I think. So that kind of makes it a lot better, in my opinion. Like, it's more excusable. Zane's here wasn't as bad as I'd first made out. You know, it's not amazing, it's not ideal. He's kind of just looking off at the floor, but it's not bad by any means. He is definitely a lot more protected and in there. I haven't got the Nindroid in there, or the Woobot. However, he can just slide in there, and he does go in there pretty well. You know, he just kind of looks like he's part of the leg, to be honest. He's a lot more noticeable when Zane's vehicle's transformed. Now, as for posability, It's got a surprising amount. So you can bend the legs forwards. I slightly overextended one of the legs. So you can bring the legs forwards, especially if you move the arms out of the way. You can bring it quite far forwards. And then quite far back, despite the caked up cheeks. You know, you can move them quite far back. And you can also move them out by one click each, make him look like he's doing the splits. And I feel like you can use this leg movement to do some pretty interesting poses. So I'm going to show you one now, which I think looks the best. You can get it into like quite a good walking pose, I think. It's not perfect, you know, there's no knee bend at all. However, I don't think it needs it, you know, you can do quite a lot with it still. And in fact, you may be able to make it look like it's leaning forwards quite a bit. You know, I think that's quite a good look. Yeah, it's got a lot of posability. You can make it lean quite far without it falling over, which I am really impressed by. I think it's basically the max that you could possibly get with a mech like this. An extra thing that you can move is these things, which doesn't really do anything. I think it's more just for decoration, but, you know, it's possible. You can move the arms. If I bring the tripod up a little bit higher, you can see that the arms move up and down, as well as these arms, which move on the inside. And I'll show you that a little bit later on. Now, this is what it looks like without the sword there. You know, you can kind of bring it in a bit more, make it look a little bit less awkward. I think Kai's mech's arms are the only real issues with this being combined, is that they kind of just get in the way. I think it's quite cool that you have these 4 arms now, and it does make it a bit more practical that you can like hold things with these arms for like imaginative play. However, when it comes to posing, they do kind of get in the way because they don't go out as far as I would like. They're just kind of there, you know. Like it's not the best design, but it is good. I think the movement that you can get out of it is good enough. So yeah, you can move the arms out, and you can bend them at the knees or the elbows. You know, there's not much issue there. You can also move the drill bit, which I'll show you when I'm reviewing Cole's part. And then on the back, you know, you can turn the head and stuff. You can move it up and down. You can raise it and lower it slightly if you really wanted to. One thing that I will mention is this bit right here looks quite cool. It looks like a face, you know, with those bits being the eyes, and then maybe the mouth there, and the nose, eyebrows there and there. I think it's quite cool. But a lot of people have mentioned that the face for this, or the main head, looks like Optimus Prime, and I can see it. It gives you the possibility to flatten that, which first off really helps the case. And I think it definitely does resemble Optimus Prime, which I'm not complaining about. I think he is pretty cool in the design. Everyone hoping for that Optimus Prime Lego set. You know, I'm on board with that if that's the kind of head that they can do. But yeah, I think that's going to be it for the mech as a total. You know, you've seen all of the extra bits. One thing that I haven't shown is like Jay on the back, as I was showing you the figures, and how awkward they are. As I said, Jay is the worst because he's just looking up at the sky, doesn't have that much protection, and he's just kind of open, which is a bit annoying, but it's not too bad. You know, he's on the back, you can't really see him that much of the time. And then Kai is very buried in there. You know, you can't really see him at all. He's got full casing, full surrounding. He's not getting touched by anyone. So now I'm going to start taking everything apart and showing you how these all go together individually. So first off is you take off these shoulder guards, which are the wings for Jay's jet, which is on the back. And that all just comes off individually. Now, one thing that I really want to show you, which is very satisfying. One thing that I really want to show you is something very satisfying where you see this quite open space here. When you're putting it all together, you can drop that down and it just slides so perfectly in there, and then you lift the head up. The way that this all comes together is really nice. I really love that part of it, of the transformation. I'm breaking everything now, so I'm probably going to have to cut and, fix it, but Jay's jet just comes off the back here. It normally doesn't break, but because I was trying to hold parts from parts that weren't meant to be held, it did break a bit. So there. After getting everything that fell apart, you're left with this bit, which is kind of cool. You can imagine it as a wingless flyer, but what you're meant to do is clip these shoulder guards by the ball joints. These have very good articulation when on the jet. You can get it into some pretty interesting poses. You can fold these banners back quite a bit, and it gives quite a nice design, I think. You can angle these down quite a lot into a bit of a walking machine, I guess. The jet, I think. Again, my only issue being that J isn't covered that much, but again, for what it is, for the small size that it is, and how it combines with the mech, I think it does work quite well. Really the most awkward thing to do, just from how they're attached, because what you do is you pull these orange pins off, and then they just kind of fall apart. That's the only thing keeping it together, and it's kind of awkward because you just pull them out, and then you're meant to put these back into the Kai mech. So it does make things a little bit difficult to do, and once you're done with that, you're left with what I like to call it, the Tyrannosaurus Rex. Because you got these massive legs and then these tiny arms, and in fact, it's not that much different to the main build when it comes to sizings of things, but just thought that was quite a funny thing. And it's kind of interesting to think about the different ways that you can combine this, leaving certain things out or trying to combine different parts in different places. Anyway, the next thing that you do is put the two Technic pins together at the bottom. I just showed you them there. And then move the wheels to a certain angle. Another thing that I like to do is just move them out of the way so you can actually fold it together. Now, when it comes to this, I don't really have that many issues with it. It looks nice. The fact that it's not as covered up doesn't mean as much to me. It still looks quite cool. But the hard plastic wheels, as you can see, don't really like to roll that much. And the drills look cool on the front. But just look at it from the top. That is not it. It's cool, again, the fact that it's part of the mech. It does kind of excuse it a bit. I think the fact that you have to separate these and it has to be thin enough to fit on the mech does kind of make it a bit better. But just leaving it so open, and the fact that these bits aren't really connected means that sometimes they can drift apart, which can kind of give it a cool look if you do something like that. It can't move then, but it looks cool, I think that's quite an interesting design. In fact, maybe if you really wanted to, you could do a jet thing. I think that's quite interesting, and I don't think Lego intended it. Some stickers along the top here. I really like this one here. I think it's quite cool. I was meant to show you the stickers on Jay's jet, which are here and here and here, on both sides. So anyway, yeah, I think that overall it's a nice design. I really like this vehicle. However, I just don't know if I'd buy it individually, which, unlike the J vehicle, I'd be happy to pay £15, probably £10 to £15 for this as an individual set. Maybe a bit of bulk in certain areas and, an extra figure, but I think that it could sell as its own vehicle. So anyway, we're left with this part of the mech, the legs and the main mech. I'm going to show you Zane's part, which is basically just unclipping it from them two things, and then the Kai mech just clips back together there, and then you turn the feet around. So Kai's mech isn't naturally that thick, although he does have quite thick legs. I'll mention that when talking about his mech later. What you're left with are the two legs, which unfortunately don't stand up by themselves unless you angle them in slightly. You can do that, but then they can't go together. So what you're left with is these two legs put together. it can't really like hop around. I mean, you could do that if you really wanted to, but what you do is you bend the feet down, and then they come up off the floor, and then you're left with this like treaded vehicle, which is quite cool. And again, this is a vehicle that I would happily pay separately for. Like, it feels like a complete vehicle. Maybe have these as stud shooters, which I'm surprised they didn't do in the main build. Like, I'm surprised you didn't have stud shooters there, but it's not an issue. I don't think it takes away from the look. But yeah, you're left with this Zane vehicle, where Zane's now looking up at the sky. You know, he's now looking up into space, unless you decide to adjust it again, but then it's not completely covering him. So again, it just comes down to how you feel about that. And then you've got the Woobot on the other side, which is looking kind of straightforward. You can angle him up a little bit more. And maybe he could be the stud shooters for this vehicle. As I was saying, you know, you can use them to shoot off studs. But yeah, the tread on this works quite well. You know, you can see it rolling. There's no cheater wheels or anything. And I think it all goes together quite well. And as I said, you can just bring it up straight from the ground if you really wanted to. The Woobot has a tendency to fall out if you don't put him in like properly. But yeah, I think it's quite a nice vehicle. I really like how it looks. I like how it kind of angles up into this kind of shape. Yeah, I don't have an issue with this. So next up, we're going to take a look at the Kai mech. So this is the biggest and probably most important part, because this is like the central hub, the torso of the mech. And as a separate mech, like, would I be happy to buy this set as it's sold, like as it is now? I'd be disappointed as a mech, but I reckon it could be salvageable if LEGO did this annoying thing where, like, you buy a bunch of individual sets and then put them together to make the combo mech. So this set is kind of good as a base for the combo mech, but it's not enough to sell for itself. You know, you can get it into some really nice poses. Don't get me wrong, you can do some pretty interesting things with it. And it doesn't look too bad, but there's no real head. Kai's still pretty covered, other than the back, but I think even the back looks nice. I really like this kind of bony, not really bony, but like ridged design on the back. And then it's got thrusters here for some reason, you know, for some charged up jet kicks or something. The feet designs themselves are pretty nice. But then it's got these really thick legs. Like, they are incredibly thick. I don't know why. Something about Kai being thick, you know? It's because it has to attach to the legs, which, compared to the Kai mech legs, are a lot thicker. But I kind of wish that they would have kept to the theme of, you know, it's these massive thick legs, and the knees do kind of work. They clip together, so you're not meant to be able to, but you can if you really want to bend the knees here. I think that it works well enough having it like that. You can get some really nice poses out of it. And the arms themselves, as I mentioned before, do have some articulation. You can bend them back and forwards, out. Not really to the front that well. The ball joint kind of gets blocked, but you can bend it enough, I think. And then you can slightly adjust them and lift these up if you really wanted to. But honestly, this as itself isn't too bad. It could be improved, obviously. The sword itself is quite cool. Again, works best if it's individual. And most of the time when I'm like displaying the mech, I'd probably take the sword away. And if I remove Kai from the cockpit, you can see he's got these two like joy controllers, like joysticks, as well as a screen and console in there. So it feels complete. Like, it definitely feels like a full mech, just it could be done better. Before I show you guys the minifigures, I forgot to show you the side build, which is disappointing. It's not disappointing, actually. It is actually a really nice build. But compared to the mech, it is what it is. You know, like, it's got a nice design, and you can fold this down to put a minifigure in there, and I'll show you that now. and it does look pretty cool. I will admit, like, it's not a bad mech. Again, this is another thing where I would happily pay £5 for this build, like £5 to £10, is depending on what else it comes with. So as a build, you know, it's pretty cool. You've seen that it's got movement here. It's got ball joints, so you can move the arms forwards and backwards, and it's got these leg things which can also move forwards and backwards. I've seen people saying that it's meant to be a flying vehicle, you know, you're meant to do something like that, and I think it does look cool like that, but I think it's more meant to be like a gorilla walker thing, you know. So starting off from the left, we have Cole, Kai, Zane, Jay, a Woobot, and then 2 Pyro or Rock Snake villains. I've done an entire video complaining about them before. However, the ninja themselves are pretty cool. I really like the designs for these figures. They've definitely grown on me. Kai, I still think, has awkward coloured legs. But definitely Zane, Jay, and Cole, I think, are some definitely good figures. And although I've complained about these snake villains before, they're not bad looking. You know, like, you've got some pretty nice torso printing there. This one's got a set of stud shooters on the top of its head, which I think is quite cool. I'm not going to shoot them off, however, I will catch them and show you the pieces, because they look amazing. I don't know how well you can see that, but the design, the print is kind of shiny, and I think it has like this purple glow to it. It's really nice. I really like what they've done with that. Possibly my favourite piece of the set. Like, I think it's really cool. Obviously, we've got Jay and Cole and Zane and Kai. I've got to do a review of them because they're cool. First up, we're going to take a look at the figures from the front. Just take a minute to look at the designs. They all come with their signature weapons. Cole's got a hammer, Kai's got a golden sword, even though he's got a coloured sword. You know, all these figures come with their respective coloured swords. And I'll show you the back now so you can have a look. But anyway, Zane's got his shurikens, Zane's got his shurikens and Jay's got his nunchuck. And then, you know, there's nothing for the Woobot. And then this snake dude has some fists, which are pretty cool. And they all come with their individual coloured weapons, their individual swords, which I think is a really nice thing that I hope LEGO does a lot more. I think it's cool that they differ the ninja even more with colour of their swords. I think it's cool to have that variety. It's also nice that they do include like full coloured swords. You know, they've had black swords and gold swords and grey swords and silver swords. How many times am I going to say the word swords? But I think having this is a very fun way of differentiating them even more. But now we're going to remove all the extra detailing. Here they are with all their extra pieces removed. You can see them all here. You can't see them all there, but they're all off, other than this dude's fists, which are basically just covering up orange legs, no, orange hands. Now, to show you the torso printing for them, I'm also going to remove the head for the snake, just so you can have a better look at their like main torso designs a bit more. Now, Zane is the only one without an alternate head. I mean, Zane and obviously the Woobot and the 2 snakes because of their head designs. But Zane does have back head printing, which I think is cool if they were going to include the hair. But I think I would have preferred them to include an extra face, since they didn't include the hair pieces. You know, like, Zane's hair covers up the back head printing slightly, so it makes sense to have a back of head print for when he's got his hair on. But if they're not going to include the hair and they're just going to include this mask, why not include an extra face? I don't understand it. It's cool. Like, it's not a bad figure. I really like the design for all of these. I think Zane probably does have my favourite back torso printing. But yeah, he's not bad. It's just a thing that I noticed, that they didn't include the proper head for him. And yeah, that's going to be it. I'm going to set up a small display and give you the final verdict. So here is a small display that I've set up. Obviously, it's kind of difficult to do with such a large set, to even get everything in camera, but I haven't done that much posing with this, just considering the size of it. However, this is just something to look at while I talk about the set. So, how do I feel about the set in total? I don't know. Like, I pointed out a lot of flaws with the set. Like, I admit that. I pointed out quite a few. With the arms, I didn't mention it, but, like, the fact that it's all Technic holes and pins does take away from the looks a little bit. But then again, it's incredible that we have a set like this. It's just amazing that LEGO have put together a build that looks good, mostly. Like, it looks good enough to pass as a set, but it also works well as the set that it's intending to be. It's the first time that we've ever had a LEGO set where multiple builds come together to make a mech that works well. It works as a mech by itself. Individual vehicles work well enough by themselves. Obviously, there's not much play value in this, despite it being a large mech. Like, you can rotate the hands, you can move parts, you can take things apart and put it together. So it's not got much play value other than it being the mech, other than it being just a large action figure. But it does it well. Like, it does a good job at being playable, you know. I'm not going to say much about the balance. I've mentioned this in a previous video, but, like, this thing, this small robot monkey gorilla thing, how is it meant to take on this? I appreciate that this costs a lot, and I appreciate that they wanted to include something for the ninja to fight, but, like, there is no way that that is going up against that. There's just no way at all. However, I would have happily paid the amount that I paid for this mech without any of the villain stuff, and the villain stuff is just a bonus, and I appreciate it. I love the builds for it. It's not bad, you know. As I said, a lot of this stuff could work together by itself without the context of it combining, with slight modification, that is. So, is this a bad set? No, I genuinely think that it is a really good mech. I don't think it beats the Titan mech, Zane's Titan mech, that was released for the 10th anniversary. However, it's definitely up there on the list. I'm not going to deny that. Like, this is just incredible. Now, do I have complaints? Yes, I do, but they're not bad. They're not serious. I think it's all things that are just small nitpicks that can't really be fixed, you know? But I think, as a set, it is amazing. It is definitely a revolution for LEGO. You can now start to adventure in combining other sets. Like, can you imagine if this was a Power Rangers set? It would be incredible. I know we probably wouldn't get it, because all of the rights for Power Rangers are to Hasbro and stuff, but having LEGO Power Rangers would be just incredible. It would be. Like, having this done in a slightly different way would just be so fun, I think, for a lot of kids. But yeah, I think the figures included are great. Obviously, it would have been nice if instead of maybe the villains, we had Nia and Lloyd, and then maybe like a small Lloyd vehicle or a small Nia vehicle, which could maybe attach to this. But then again, I feel like the fact that all the hero stuff, all the ninja stuff, combining together to make this would work well, and I don't see where other things could go together on this. Maybe if they did it where, like, Wu has his own thing, Wu has like an arm, and then Nia has a leg, and then Lloyd has a leg, and then Zane has one leg and Cole has somewhere, you know. I think it could work, you know. There's possibility to make it all work together, for all 6 ninja to be in the mech, but the fact that they've got 4 ninja to make this massive mech is good. I I don't know if I could have done anything better. I am really happy with this. I think it's definitely got potential. I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you did, feel free to leave a like, subscribe, all of that usual stuff, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.